Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Brewing e-commerce. And I have to say, this is the kind of moment where I would say somebody to come and pinch me because the one I have with me, the one I'm posting today, is somebody I've always seen from pretty far away on large events and different meetings when I'm like sitting at the back row to just hear Janice out. But I'm so glad and happy that she's agreed to join us today. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm absolutely delighted to be joining you today.
So I I can't even begin to put my head around all the million questions that I have to ask you, Janice, because I've been hearing you at the top events in the UK, right? I hear you're part of so many advisory boards, and the amount of speaking and the amount of information sharing that you do is just massive, and it's just so helpful, right? As in, how do you manage, and on top of it, your work, right? You are in an executive position in a large brand. It's just too much to ask for.
That's really kind of you to say. I think for me, one of the fundamental ideas is that the more you share with other people, the more you can articulate what you have done well, the better that you understand it. That if someone says, oh, 80% of your 80% of your revenue comes from existing customers. How do you do that? It makes you think, well, what is it that we do that is different? And I genuinely believe that, do you know what? If everyone follows, our four pillars of customer loyalty, then that's great. That's better for every consumer in the UK, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt us. It just makes every consumer's experience better. I mean, there were certain things, kind of very specific things that I wouldn't share, but generally, like, how do you engender customer loyalty? How do you increase website conversion? Those kind of questions I'm always willing to share, and I'm always interested to hear what other people have to say on those topics. And I think particularly for me, there are so many events and so many great things going on that it's quite a discipline for me to be like, okay, you've been invited to this event, you're going to talk about X. It really makes me think, okay, what am I going to talk about? What is everyone else talking about? I'm really kind of active in participating in the event rather than it being something that I'm
Yeah,
just going to, and it's easy to get distracted by emails and things like that. No, it's like, I am here, I'm part of the speaker faculty. It's important that, as you say, you've seen me some events. So one of the things I really like to do is I try to wear bright colors. I try to wear something that will make me stand out in a crowd.
yeah,
And it's a secret. It's like, that's one of the things that makes, for me, going to events much easier, because people
great.
recognize me and then they come up to me to ask questions rather than it be always being on me to network and start conversation and kind of all of those things. So it's like, if I'm speaking and I'm wearing something distinctive, it means that
Yeah,
I have these great conversations throughout the day because people will stop me and talk to me.
that is amazing, and I think the way you put it out there as to you want to share and bring the overall, I would say, standard of industry higher because the knowledge sharing has to be like that. um, that's just exactly why I started doing e-commerce, was because to gain experience and learnings from the path that you've taken, because that's more important. And I think the leaders like you, um, yeah, if I have to go a little beyond, I would say they have that power to go and enrich others with experience as well. Very seldom it really happens, but I've heard you in talks, and I have to say, on the other side, you do not need to wear those flashy stuff in your, the bright colors, because your content also stands out, right? So guys like me would definitely end up come and talk to you either ways, but I'm glad it's a combination of both of it together, and that is amazing. Great. So let's start from the beginning of your professional career, Janice. Right? You're a hardcore marketing lady. Right? You've done various roles. Um, you have a span of career working in really large companies as well. You did consulting, and now for the past, again, many years, you're focused on e-commerce, right? So was there like a keen marketing interest since school, or something stumbled upon and it was like the apple falling down that I should do this? What was the moment like?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird one. So when I was 16 and I was choosing my just on my GCSEs and I was choosing my A level subjects, and very much in that 16-year-old rebellion, I had a big falling out with my parents about what subjects I was going to do. So I was going to do three A levels, and I was always going to do maths and French because they were the two things that I was really good at. Which now I look back and it's like that's actually quite a weird combo, but hey. And
Right.
then my parents and I fell out about what the third subject would be, and they wanted me to do computer science, and I wanted to do drama. So you could see they're like very different. There wasn't an easy
Oh,
compromise on that. And so, being a 16-year-old, I said, "You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do drama." And then it ended up that there were actually only three of us in our drama class, which, because there's a lot of improv and things like that, they were like, we don't think this is actually going to work. We're going to have to close the drama class. Um, so I spoke to the head of careers and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do computer science then, make my parents happy. And they said, "Oh no, we're really sorry because now the term has started. The computer science clashes with your other two subjects. You can't take computer science now." And they said, "Oh, we've got business studies and that fits with your schedule." And so I did A level business studies, and like literally the day they started talking about marketing, I was like, "Oh, this is me." And I think for me, you can tell academically I'm an unusual mix of um, kind of maths and the arts, and that was what clicked with me in marketing. Was it is that perfect blend of the maths and the analysis and all of those things, but the
yeah.
creativity and the ideas and all, and so it was the perfect career for me.
Excellent. I've always stumbled upon people who come with technology background, and they kind of they really outsell the marketing guys, because marketing is all about numbers at the end of it. While you have the creative angle, etc., but when it blends together, I think that's where the magic happens. But uh, the technology background extended that to the mathematics side is somebody I'm coming to talk to for the first time, Janice, and this is quite a story. Amazing how the whole universe conspired to kind of bring you in here and go out. So that's really amazing. Uh, I want to go a little deep dive, setting the context here, Janice. Is There are two kinds of people I have come across in the whole e-commerce side of things, right? One are the traditional retailers, right, who are trying to take the first step towards the direct to consumer side, and they're really large. The D2C sites contribute less than 10% of their revenue and stuff like that, right? And they would always come and say that we've always done those brick and mortar, we don't know how to do online, right? And then there are those other guys where the brand has mushroomed in the past 4 to 5 years, who are very very digital first, and now are trying to become omni-channel. So now they're trying to open stores in Oxford Street and somehow, and trying to do this. And you have seen both sides of it, right? A lot of people make this bold statement saying D2C is dead. The only thing which is there is omni-channel, right? I'd love to have your take on how do you think the industry is evolving, and how do you think it'll look in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're in a really interesting time, and I think the simple fact is there is no one right answer for any brand. I think that some are going to always going to be more physically focused, some are going to be more digitally focused. I think fundamentally it's understanding your customer and what your customer needs and what your customer wants and what you can do for your customer, and the brand and what is unique about those, and kind of blend, where does the intersection of that sit. So for us, we are 100% direct to consumer brand to look fabulous forever, and that is a conscious decision that we have made, and that is because our philosophy is not just about selling product. It is about how we make our customers feel and how helpful we are, which is sounds counterintuitive. That you're like, well, surely that means that you would be leaning towards physical retail, but
Yeah, yeah,
actually, um, unless we were to open a fleet of shops ourselves, which is incredibly expensive and a massive, massive investment, then
yeah,
realistically, we would have to sell through third party retail. But our products are completely different from mainstream beauty products. And we specifically serve a customer who feels neglected by mainstream beauty brands and retailers, and she doesn't feel welcome in that environment. So it's very difficult for us. Whereas online, we can have literally thousands of hours of tutorials, and we ask our customers every quarter, we do a quarterly customer survey. And as part of that, we specifically ask them about what content they want to see from us and what content that we've done recently that was useful to them, and all of those things. So through that online experience, we're able to serve the customer on a much more personalized basis. That, someone wants to understand, right, how do I apply eyeliner in a flattering way, is very different when you're 75 than when you're 25. And our whole philosophy
right,
as a brand is we want to provide that content and be useful and helpful and make our customer feel welcome and understood and represented. And that customer might buy her eyeliner from Superdrug, and I don't mind. Watch my tutorial, find it helpful. And then over time, hopefully, you'll find us more and more and more helpful, and you'll come to trust us and you'll come to buy from us. So it's not just
yeah,
what's right for the customer, it's also then right for us as a business. We have this opportunity to build a relationship with people before they become our customers. So they know us and they understand us and they trust us. So that means when somebody is eventually ready to make a purchase from us, over half
yeah,
of our customers come back and make a second purchase. And if we can get them past that second purchase point, on average, they go on to buy it from us at least 7 times. So while we have this
so,
long kind of courtship before they
yeah,
become customers, the
yeah,
value of that then pays back later on. So for us as a brand, we want to be 100% D2C. It is about who we are as a brand and who our customers are. That
yeah.
doesn't mean that's right for every brand. There are very few brands that would say, actually, do you know what? This is the particular model that we're pursuing. But for us, it's the right thing to do.
I Yeah, this is amazing because the way you've broken down, brings for me multiple things, and I'm going to repeat that just for my understanding, and please kind of correct me wherever I'm not going right. Firstly, I think nailing down your ICP, if you really understand who your customers are, what do they want, like the sense of what you said, they feel neglected if they walk into a booths, right? Nobody's kind of catering to them. That's so important, right? Then where are they going to spend time? One thing is trying to buy a product, but second is the application of it. And where I think very beautifully you kind of summed it up, that you are aiding them use the product, irrespective it's your product or not, but there has to be a brand recall, filtered in there, right? And third, and the most important, that we work with a lot of brands, and on the conversion optimization side, it just pains me to see that they don't understand that it takes time for visitors to come and do the courtship and then finally buy. They all talk about bringing the best traffic, showing the best creative, but it doesn't work, because on an average, like the brands we work with, it takes about four different visits for them to come and really buy, right? So low intent, medium intent, high intent, stuff like that. And what you're trying to do is, in every step, you're trying to make them trust you more, make them believe you more, and then finally they're ready to spend that 20 quids and buy that stuff. And I try to do this every day, but I think the way you said it is just so nicely blended in, because I think every single D2C brand needs to know this and understand that they have to really put themselves in their buyers' minds and kind of do this whole customer journey analysis. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and this is very hard, and this is a very hard thing to do, right?
It is, and I think I am very lucky that I've worked in environments that really value data and customer research. And I've been steeped in that for a long time in my career. And that's kind of very much something that I bought to look fabulous forever. That they'd done focus groups, and they already, when I joined, they had their private Facebook group, so they've got their community. And particularly our founder, Trisha Cusden, A, she is our target audience, but B, she
Sure.
spends a lot of time talking to customers. We have an incredible customer service team who are really all about listening to our customers and giving them the opportunity to ask questions. Will this product suit me? Will this color suit me? And they're not targeted by, like, oh, you've got to do this many calls per hour or things like that. And we judge them by, are they having a good interaction with the customer? Does the customer appreciate the information that's being shared with them? So they already had this kind of foundation, and then I layered on top of that more formal research. So we do a quarterly customer survey. It goes to everyone who's bought from us in the last 3 months. We do a combination of, there are certain questions that we ask every quarter, kind of NPS score. Do people know that they can try any of our products? And if they don't like it for any reason, they can return it free of charge, for a refund, or in exchange for another the color. So things like that. Do people know that we have this very generous guarantee? But we also ask kind of qualitative stuff, particularly around new product development. What are customers looking for a particular new product that we're thinking of developing? How interested would they be in buying it? How much would they be willing to pay? What qualities would they need? Even, and what would they need to know about this product before they decided to buy it? So we even get our marketing strategy from them, ahead of deciding to even go into production on something. We know, can we make enough margin to make this financially viable? Is there enough demand for it? Are we formulating it in the right way? All of these things. So we get this really, really rich data alongside that more anecdotal stuff that we've always been really good at as a business.
Wow. This is mind blowing insights of what really happens behind the scenes. That uh, I think a lot of times people who buy don't really appreciate that. But I firmly believe that if brand tries to communicate this to them in some shape and form, they would really understand that, hey, this is all being done to solve a problem that I have, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think
So
I
just to get
think
us,
our customers
sorry,
do actually
sorry.
appreciate that, because we see typically, I still can't quite get over it. Typically, we see 10% response rate on these quarterly customer surveys, which is huge. And we
Is
always
really good.
say when we send them out, oh, by the way, we just did something, we did some an event, or we just launched this new product, or we have a new product coming based on your
Yeah.
feedback. So we make sure we close the loop, and we tell them, this is the kind of stuff that we do. When you share that information, this is what we do with it, so they don't feel like they're just filling out a survey and then they never hear about something again.
Wow. Just to get a sense of time scale, Janice. So if I'm thinking of a new product development to the final green or red for commercialization, what's the approximate time frame it would take for you guys to do something like this?
Oh, it varies wildly. So some of the feedback could be like,
Okay.
"Oh, I were interested in a new shade of eyeshadow." That's relatively straightforward for us to do because we already manufacture eyeshadow. It's just about like getting the shade match that we're happy with and then producing the kind of packaging and those kind of things bespoke for that particular shade. But something like particularly new skincare products can be a really long development cycle, particularly because we have to do something called compatibility testing, which is like you actually have to put the product in the jar. If you say this product lasts 6 months from opening, you have to make sure it does genuinely last 6 months from opening. So you have to wait that period of time and things like that. And particularly one of the products we've been keen to develop for, I think, about 3 years was a separate SPF layer, and we knew that SPF is really important. So we wanted a factor 50 coverage. We were really specific about what we wanted, and we wanted something that's going to work really well with both your skincare and your makeup, because that's the whole thing. That if you put it on and then your makeup doesn't look great with it underneath, then that defeats the purpose. So
Okay, so-
that product took us 3 years to develop to a high enough standard where we were happy with the product and the compatibility with both our makeup and our skincare. And certainly the feedback so far on that product, we launched it in September, and it's been really positive that our customers really really like it. So it was worth the
Wait.
to do it right than to do it quickly.
Yeah, which I see again. A lot of guys don't have the patience to do it in that way, but yeah, but I think something which anyways goes to the skin, right, has to be far more, or something which is going inside your body. Those kind of things are so pivotal. One guy standing up and saying, this doesn't work for me, can really create a ripples of not nice reviews and stuff, right?
Yeah, we had that last year actually. We wanted to do a product that helped fade your age spots, and because we knew this would be a particularly important product for us to be able to prove that it worked, that we were like, we can't launch this product unless we prove. So we actually prototyped it and had about 50 customers try it, and I think we had, it was something like about 10% of them had it damaged their skin a little bit, and we were like, no, we can't launch a product that on that scale is going to have a problem. And even though it was a product that our customers really really want, we just said no, that's it, there's too much risk involved, and we wouldn't want anyone to have a negative experience from our product. Of course, there are going to be people who've got specific allergies and things like that, but not on a kind of 10% of customers have a problem with it. That for us is a hard no.
Yeah, you do not jeopardize, anything out of that. So, um, let me ask this, and this is the question that I get a lot from talking to the brands that we work with. So Janice, I'm at 0 to 1 stage when I just have an idea of launching a beauty care product, right? Um, what would be the top three advice, the top five pointers that you would tell these early stage e-commerce founders, saying, guys, you know what, from a customer point of view, this, please.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you something. This is 100% not my bag. That I've always been really really specific that my strength is scale up, that I am really great once you've got product market fit. I can help you grow your business. I do not
Okay,
have the patience for startup, and I mean I have worked in startups within bigger businesses, but I've never worked
sure,
in a cold startup because it's just I
sure.
don't have the patience for me. And I think
Yeah.
also I become really emotionally invested in the things that I do. And I don't think I could take the heartbreak of startup to have a great idea that just never really
Yeah.
made it. So I may be a coward, but
Yeah.
and I think that's quite important for
No,
people as well, to be really clear about what where your strengths and weaknesses lie. And for me, I'm just like, startup is just not for me.
I'm going to tweak the question a little bit, but I have to say I'm loving this even more, Janice, because any other guy here whom I'm talking to, even if they didn't come from the background, would just faff around and saying, "This is what I think." I think it takes a lot for somebody to come and say, "You know what? I'm not the expert. I haven't done it. I'm not gonna do this." So, okay, all right. I'm just gonna have this silly smile on my face for a long time because this is just exactly what I needed. So let me tweak the question more to suit our conversation in that way. So once I launch and I have those early 100 customers, right? I understand I'm solving a problem, etc. But there are still so many things to reach that 100 to 10,000 scale, right? And while you've crossed the first hurdle, there are so many other things that you don't have a visibility on, right? What would be your best practice or like a primer or bullet points there, please?
Okay. I think you've touched a little bit on part of the crucial thing. Is one of the things about that kind of scale up stage of business is there are so many things that you could do, and it is really, really easy to get distracted, and there are going to be so many opportunities for you. So I think for me, our biggest success at Look Fabulous Forever, and the biggest thing that I've managed to bring to the business, is focus. Being really clear about what we are trying to achieve, and being really clear about what we'll say no to, as well as what we might say yes to. And I think part of it is being far enough along in the journey to understand the levers a little bit. You've tried a few different things and you know what works and what doesn't work for you, and what that's going to look like when something does work. So I'm going to give you an example. I spent actually a big chunk of my career in media and entertainment, and I built one of the first streaming platforms in the UK, even before Netflix was doing streaming, and spent quite a long time in the streaming space. So I was working for this streaming platform, and it was quite successful, and it was co-owned by two big companies that will remain nameless because I'm probably going to say some things about them that might not put them flattering. So it was owned by two really, really big corporations, and they worked in that kind of space, and they were very much, they had a specific idea of what marketing looked like. And so they said, oh, why don't you do more press advertising? And I was like, well, the thing with press advertising is the platform at the time was on Virgin Media, and if you go in the Daily Mail, then Virgin Media is about 30% of households, so you're going to get 70% wastage. So it's quite hard to get ROI on all of these things. And so I kept pushing back, and my boss said to me, "Look, you need to run this campaign, and you need to spend quite a lot of money on it." And I was like, "Why would we do this? It's just not going to be cost effective." And he gave me some really, really good advice. He said, "Do you know what? If you do this on a small scale, they're just going to say, well, it's because you didn't spend enough money. You've got to do this in a definitive enough way to prove that it doesn't work. And then that gives you the freedom to focus on what does work." And what also happened as part of this was it really made me think about media, and it made me think about, well, how would you make this successful? What would this look like? And it so happened that not long after, about a year afterwards, it was the really early days of targeted video on demand advertising, which Channel 4 pioneered. And I s- when they initially launched it, you could buy certain types of products. So you could say, I want to advertise in front of comedy programs or cookery programs or things like that. So I knew someone in the ad sales team at Channel 4, and I got in touch with them and said, could you do this for us where we only were showing ads in Virgin Media cable households? And they were like, nobody's ever asked us that. Let's go away and see and find out. And it turned out they could. And it was an
Yeah.
absolute game changer for us. The business accelerated massively on the back of that. And I don't think actually, if I'd gone through the exercise of going through paid media that was unsuccessful and had really
Yeah.
made me think, what is the version of this that would be successful? I don't think I would have, because I had to really actively seek out this opportunity and manufacture it for us.
Yeah.
It really crystallized my thinking. And I am a real fan of doing things that don't work, not all the time. And not something that you really don't think will work generally is not something I would advise. But sometimes definitively knowing that something does not work and being able to close that door helps with that focus.
And you say this again in a very different way of how we, from a conversion rate optimization, we call it experiments, right? It's about running them all the time. Some of them will not work, and you know that, but you still want to just close that door and then move forward with the other ones. So
Absolutely. I
yeah.
think particularly when you work in a big bureaucratic organization, those things where something keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up, like you think about how much organizational money is being wasted having those discussions every few months, that sometimes actually spending the money to be like, no, this doesn't work. Or even sometimes there've been things like, do you know what? I really didn't think that word would work, but it did. So
It did.
therefore, we
Yeah.
want to understand better, why did it work when we thought that it wouldn't, and how do we lean into
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Let me extend this to um, things that work and that don't work, right? And again, my background of CRO and stuff, right? So one of the biggest thing that pains me personally, and that's why I got into what I do right now, is if you look at the average conversion rates globally, and they haven't gone up beyond 3% in a decade. And when you look at creating ads or running ads, right? So the whole, because the internet is so ad driven, there are, we talk about AI, generative AI, ML, etc. All those things are so much, again, bringing traffic, but still the conversion optimization piece is, there's so much less innovation, so many less things happening there. Um, why do you think that is, and what are your tips for people to kind of focus on CRO side of the game?
That's a really good question. I think there are actually two issues at play here. One is, I think when you look at conversion rate on a global basis, I think it's going to be very hard to move the needle on that, because I think there's something inherent about consumer behavior and the time it takes to decide to make a purchase and how many websites you're going to visit that all kind of comes out in the wash on an aggregate basis. So I think, I don't know for certain, but unless customers suddenly stop wanting to browse and discover new things, then I think it's quite hard to move the needle on that overall conversion rate. So I
Okay.
think
Okay.
there's actually something that's actually fundamentally about consumer behavior. In terms of CRO, I mean, I could get I could get so granular with CRO. It's like something that I really am very passionate about. And in fact, there's a framework that I developed some years back where I looked at what I think are the like 50 most crucial factors in CRO, and I mapped out what does a high, medium, and low friction experience look like for each of those factors. So,
Yes.
kind of, I could get really, really granular. But I think fundamentally it's about a combination of things. One is really, really being able to see things from your consumer's eyes, which is really hard because whenever you read a piece of copy or look at a web page, you're so close to it. It's very hard to look at it with that kind of distance that your customer has. So I think really, really understanding what your customer wants, what they need, and what they expect. And I think we do not give enough thought to how does it make them feel? How does the experience make them feel? That there are simple things like if you like we've all had emails from companies where you see a particular product and you're like, oh, that's great, and you click on that product and it takes you to a category page or the home page or something that is not that specific product that had caught your eye, and you thought, oh. And I think there's so many things like that that we just don't think, what's the customer expecting to happen here? I saw a really interesting piece of research. It was quite old, so I don't know if it still holds true. This idea that actually 3 steps to checkout is optimal, that there's, as well as too many, there's also too few, and actually it can cause anxiety if it goes through too quickly. So there are certain things that you can only optimize to a certain point. And I think it's about really understanding the best practice in every aspect of it, and then testing it, saying, oh, do you know what, kind of best practice says a green button is more likely to convert than a red button, but does that
Yeah.
work for our brand? So that's always my, kind of, it's almost like we're doing our own thing is the universally the high friction experience. We're doing what we think is right. The middle is we're thinking about the customer, and then the low friction one is, and we actually test every assumption.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm gonna definitely, talk to you later on the guidelines of the CRO, etc. I'd love to have a look at it and see how we can learn from it. Um, I have a couple of more questions in the interest of time. Otherwise, I'm going to bore you till I don't want you to spend your Friday evening with me. One is the industry that you are in. It's turning quite to a TikTok economy, right? Like yesterday, that event I was, and there's a young lady who said that I wanted to go to a restaurant. I was searching that on TikTok, and there was an elderly person in the room, and he's like, really, what are you even talking about, kind of a thing. And I could see maybe they're like 10 or 15 years apart from each other, but there was like a huge 2 decade generational gap. How do you think this whole influencer economy and stuff is, I know it's already making a dent in the industry, but how do you see this kind of changing in the coming years?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try not to get too geeky here. But
I love
um,
geeky. Go for it, go
I'm
for it.
a big fan of Robert Cialdini and his principles of persuasion. And one of the principles of persuasion is authority. And essentially, if people, you know, understand, they respect you, they think you know what you're talking about, then they're more likely to buy from you. And ultimately, you as a brand can become an authority, which is what we mostly do as Look Fabulous Forever. But the other alternative is that you can borrow authority by working with influencers. So I think the borrowed authority is much easier because it is just cash. Whereas becoming an authority on your own right is much harder, but it has much higher returns long term. It's interesting you mentioned TikTok, because I think that's one of the things for us as our customer research is really useful for is actually measuring those things over time. It's really easy for us to say our customers are not on TikTok, but it's one of those things that we will periodically survey them. And we actually just did a survey a few weeks ago where we just checked in on that. And the last time we did it was June 2022. And at that point, 1% of our customers was on TikTok. And the survey that we've just done at the end of December 2023, 5% were on TikTok. So we're still very, very low numbers and not worth us investing in, but it does show that we should be tracking that over time because it is growing and changing and all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely right. Not all research should be done for actions which are needed right now, but you need to keep an eye on the direction the market is heading. Right. Right. And the market heading. A little bit controversial question I would say is, how, in your opinion, is AI really going to impact e-commerce? And I mean really, really specific, like which are these streams of e-commerce where you think AI is already making an impact or will in the coming years?
Okay, so I think pretty much every single organization out there is using AI in some way. Now, do the senior leadership in that organization know that their staff are doing it, and are they on board with it is a different thing. But I would lay
Yeah.
money on the fact that AI is being used in pretty much every single organization, in certainly in the UK and the US. Whether it's more wide than that, I
Yeah.
don't know. But certainly, I think every e-commerce organization in the UK is using AI, whether or not senior leadership know. And I think that's a really, really high risk environment. I think um, all senior leadership within companies should be using AI themselves so they understand what it's capable of, what it could do, what it can't do, and they should be consulting across the organization about where the opportunities are. Because it's no good you putting a policy in place that doesn't work in the day to day reality of people's lives, because they're just going to ignore it and they're just going to do it anyway. So I think it's really, really important for companies to be really clear about how they will and won't use AI, what is okay, what isn't okay. Be really clear with people and consult with them. Don't just hand down a directive because it's not going to get followed. So I think, from my point of view, there are so many exciting opportunities. I think from any kind of creative work, just having that jumping off point rather than staring at a blank sheet of paper or a blinking cursor. Even sometimes for me, just being like, no, that's wrong. Well, why is it wrong? Can be a really kind of creatively interesting place to jump off from. So I think we're already there. It's already being used, but there are a hell of a lot of companies that have got their head in the sand about it.
All right, that is awesome, and it's coming from the authority that I know tops here. So, guys, you better watch out and better listen to this, right? Janis, again, thank you so much. It's been amazing, very very enlightening, and one of the best things about is the way you put it so simply out there. I'm always the guy who kind of tries to put too much in the creative, try to put too much on the slide deck, right? So I think I make things more complex, but hearing you was very, very nice, and it was very detail oriented, but however, still something that I can consume. And I really hope the guys watching also will be able to get a few things out of it, because we've got quite the primer here, guys. Thank you so much, Janice, for your time, and looking forward to doing this again with you sometime.
Definitely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So